Hey, good evening, grumpy old gentleman. Jay back here, of course. Uh, this is the final two movies that I've got to talk about in our Ryan Chataway Fuck You Marathon. And there are two that Mike had picked for me. And he picked two great movies, both Criterion titles. This one is 1961's The Innocents, one of the best gothic horror films, atmospheric, which a lot of horror films are. Great black and white cinematography. Deborah Kerr starred in it, and Jack Clayton directed it for 20th Century Fox. The first time I watched this, I think, was just last year, like last October. I think TCM showed it around Halloween time, and I've heard you fellas talking about it many times on your videos and stuff. How it was one of the best horror movies ever made. I know Ian talked about it, and James always raved about it. And I bought it in January or February, I think it was, for like $22, $23. And I liked it even more the second time I watched it. And I watched it just this past week, last Wednesday or Thursday, and I enjoyed it even more the third time. I'm comprehending more and more what it's about. It's not that complex of a movie when you think about it, but there's a lot going on in it. Uh, Definitely one of those different perspective types movies. Uh, Deborah Kerr, she comes for an interview for a nanny position, pretty much to take care of this fella's two young nieces and nephews who were recently orphaned. And the uncle says, well, part of the job is, you can take it, I'll pay you well, but just don't inform me of anything that happens or goes off. He doesn't want to be bothered at all. So, I mean, that's kind of a red flag right there that something mysterious is going on in the film. And Deborah Kerr, she seems kind of off balance at the beginning of the movie. Maybe she's just getting over something. Maybe something going on in her head. It might have just been a bad relationship or something. It's not really explained from what I've seen, but she seems kind of off at the beginning of the movie, and you don't know the things she starts seeing in the movies. In the movie, she starts seeing these apparitions, forms of ghosts. Maybe it's just in her head, or maybe there really are ghosts. Maybe these two children are being haunted, maybe possessed. Uh, is it real? What's real? Just it's filmed in an odd, very odd way. But the little boy in the film, he gives a really good performance, and he was the lead weird kid in Village of the Damned that came out, I believe, the same year as this did. Um, but yeah, the little boy and little girl, they were both creepy as hell, I thought, and you know, uh, just depends on how you looked at it. The interpretations, were they really possessed by the other caretakers and nannies that took care of them before, or was the current uh, nanny that's taking care of the two kids, was she psychotic? Uh, and the ending still leaves me a little bit confused. You're not sure what happened to the little boy. At least I wasn't. Uh, but I done some reading on it, and it really doesn't explain anything other than what I thought about it. But yeah, I really did enjoy it a whole lot. I'd probably give it 3.5 stars out of 4 stars. Great movie. And the other one that Mike picked for me is a concert film that came out in 1970 with one of my favorite bands, the Rolling Stones. This is 1970s Gimme Shelter, and it's pretty much a documentary of the Stones' 1969 U.S. tour. Uh, they done a U.S. tour for several months. It was their first tour in a couple of years because of the drug possession charges that they were going through at the time. Mick and Keith mainly, I guess. Uh, so they came back to the United States and done this tour. They were starting to play, instead of little clubs and little high school auditoriums, they were starting to play stadiums and arenas during this time. And they decided to give a free concert in December of 1969 at the Altamont Motor Speedway in California. A lot of the reasons given, from what I've heard over the years, is because of the high ticket prices that they were charging for this tour, which were like $8 to $10 to see the Rolling Stones. But that was a high dollar amount, I guess, in 1969 for anybody. And so they decided, well, we'll give a free concert at the end of the tour. And Jagger wanted to see just how many people would show up to see him at this free concert, because it was called Woodstock West by some of the promoters and newspapers at the time, because Woodstock had happened in August of '69, and something like 500,000 people showed up for that. And Jagger wanted to see how many people would just show up to see the Rolling Stones, and it was the Flying Burrito Brothers, Jefferson Airplane, and Grateful Dead were supposed to appear, but as soon as they got off their helicopter, they said, "Fuck this! Hell's Angels are here, beating people up, bad vibes. We're not even gonna play." So they didn't even play. But Marty Ballin from Jefferson Airplane, he got punched in the face by one of the Hell's Angels. It's the actual punch to the face isn't shown in the film, but just the reaction of the band. They're on stage and pissed off at the Hell's Angels. The Stones hired the Hell's Angels for security for this concert, and didn't pay them, just to promise a free beer, all the beer you could drink, just to keep people off the stage. And all hell broke loose. A few of the Hell's Angels, they killed a person, Meredith Hunter, a young black fella. He was attempting to go to the stage along with a bunch of other people. Well, the Hell's Angels nabbed him and stabbed him numerous times and killed him, and that's caught on film. A lot of people say that the Charles Manson murders in August of '69 shut the door on the '60s. Well, the Stones nailed it shut in December of '69, I think, when this senseless violence happened during this concert. Lots of people were beat up, just slapped around, punched around. Band members was. Mick Jagger was infamously punched in the face as soon as he got off the helicopter and set foot on the Altamont ground. It wasn't by the Hells Angels, but a fan punched him right in the face, and that's shown in the film. But the first time I saw this, I think, was on Beta in 1990. Big Stones fan my last few years of high school, and I always wanted to see it, and I picked it up on Beta for like $2 or $3 and watched it. But this is one of the first Criterions I ever bought. I paid like $20 for it, used, I believe. But it was directed by Albert and David Maysles. Is that how you pronounce their name? And also Charlotte Zerwin. And 3 directors for this film. And some of the footage in here are from Ike and Tina Turner. They opened up for the Stones quite a bit on this tour, so it's great seeing them do a couple performances. And they show the Stones at Muscle Shoals in Alabama recording studio, and they show them recording Wild Horses and Brown Sugar for the Stones album that came out 2 years later in 1971. but they show the early versions of those songs, and that they say that the Stones performed Brown Sugar for the first time at this concert, but it's not on this Blu-ray. But yeah, they supposedly performed it at Altamont. But yeah, can't say enough great things about this. This is 4 stars out of 4 stars for me. It shows the Stones' reactions after the concert, and they seem kind of upset. Keith Richards doesn't really. He just like, it was just another show. Some bad stuff happened. Let's move on. But Mick Jagger seemed kind of upset, and Charlie Watts, he looked kind of upset that people were actually slammed around during this bad concert. But that's it. I think I've said everything I wanted to say, and what's next, guys? What are we going to do next? See, got the still got to do my Great Escape review for Ian's pick for the May pick for this month. I think Bob is our first one out of the gate on this one, but yeah, got to do it, and hopefully we'll come up with something, some kind of new marathon or some new thing to do. But y'all take care and have a good night. Bye.